What the hell is going on in the world of professional wrestling? I mean, AEW started, that's now a thing. WWE moved to Fox with SmackDown, and we had the implosion of the entire wrestling business with everything that happened at Hell in a Cell between The Fiend and Seth Rollins. And yet, under the radar, under the surface, when all of that was going on, there was also a bunch of rumors that Edge may be returning to WWE and that he may be returning to the ring. We focused enough on all those other points that I brought up, so let's use today to talk about the Rated-R Superstar and how he may just be going back to WWE in time for that WWE Draft. Why? I see clearly. Here's why. Now, it's important to underline that all of this information is up in the ether at the moment and has been fueled by like a lot of detective pieces of information that you can put together and go, aha, I've solved it, but really we are not 100% sure. And to get it out there as soon as we can, even Edge went on Twitter and he wrote something like, no, I am not, and no, I am not. And any astute wrestling fan would be able to figure out what he is saying is, no, I am not returning to WWE, and no, I am not returning to wrestle. However, he is a wrestler, and as we know, if you are a wrestler, you love to work people, so he ain't going to go on there and go, oh, by the way, you got me, it's all out in there, so I'm going to spoil the surprise and tell you, yes, I am going back to WWE, and yes, I am going to be a professional wrestler. One, that would be stupid, and two, it wouldn't fit the character count on Twitter, so it'd be a waste of time. Of course, that may be us pulling at straws, because we want Mr. On This Day to actually come back, because I'm sure a lot of us do miss him. But like I say, there's no smoke without fire, and I think we can smell some smoke, and I think my ass may be on fire, because it began when the news came out that Edge was leaving the Edge and Christian podcast, which is very difficult given that it is called the Edge and Christian podcast, and his reasoning, well, it's very fair, and it was very nice. Beth Phoenix is obviously down at NXT right now doing commentary, and with her schedule and with their young family, he needed to step away. Good for him, awesome. I hope the Copelands, as I assume they are called, are absolutely smashing it, but that wasn't the only detail we had. Really, this all began at SummerSlam 2019 when he did return to a WWE ring and he speared Elias right out of his shoes. And that was a surprise because ever since he had been forced to retire in 2011, the line had always been Edge is not allowed to be physically active within that squared circle. Like even when he did come back for little skits and little storylines, you'd get something like this. A bunch of bad guys would be holding him in the ring like, we're going to hurt him because we know he's injured. They're also pirates. And then John Cena, the good guy, he'd be outside the ring going, please, I'll do whatever you want. Eventually, he would agree to do whatever they want, and then the bad guys would just let Edge go. Now, in any other scenario, the bad dudes would then beat up Edge, but again, you're not allowed to hurt Edge. He's too fragile. Also, while I did joke there, that was obviously the 100% the right thing to do. Nothing is more important than somebody's health. I mean, I'm one of these crazy people that actually think if somebody gets hurt in the match, we should just stop it and send medical professionals out there to help them. But I know, bald asshole, shut my mouth, get in the ground, comment. However, that is why when he did launch himself at the former Drifter, we couldn't figure out what we were seeing. And look, if you go back through, news articles, whatever you want to find, you will find quotes from Edge who say, I actually think I could wrestle now. The problem is I can't get cleared by WWE. But you never say never when it comes to pro wrestling, especially in world wrestling entertainment. Because look what happened to Daniel Bryan. Nobody thought that would ever be a thing. He managed to turn it around. So maybe the Rated-R one can too. So why do we bring this conversation up today? Well, PW Insider recently ran a story where they said that they knew Edge was down in Pittsburgh conducting WWE business. And do you know who else is in Pittsburgh? Dr. Joseph Maroon, that just so happens to be one of the premier doctors within WWE. All of a sudden, speculation run rampant that the only reason Edge must have been there was to try and get medical clearance. And why do you get medical clearance? Because then you can go and pretend to punch somebody in the face. Ow. There was also extra talk from Dave Meltzer with the Wrestling Observer because he wrote that Edge had recently signed a brand new contract with WWE after having talks with All Elite Wrestling. And can you imagine if they had pulled that off? Jack Swagger was one thing, Edge would explode the roof off the place. However, Dave Meltzer also went on to say that as far as he knew, nobody in the creative had been told to start coming up with any plans. So if you're a writer for that company, you're none the wiser. As far as you know, Edge is retired, Edge ain't coming back don't think about Edge. The thing is, we are very close to a WWE draft that needs to be so impactful and so intense that not only does it get you to tune in on the day, but it gets you to tune in, week out. And look, the Fox numbers are going to be really interesting when they break this weekend, because WWE once again needs to do in the high threes, and that's going to be very hard to do without The Rock. The Rock is a mainstream star. The Rock brings people in. The Rock ain't going to be on WWE TV for probably another 22,000 years. And by no means am I saying that Edge is on the same level of The Rock. The truth is that nobody is on the same level as Dwayne Johnson. But if he did come back, and if he did make a splash when that WWE draft was going on, I tell you, it would send fans that are currently watching into a frenzy. And if you're a Laps fan, and believe you me, Edge has a lot of Laps fans, and you hear about this, you're probably going to want to tune in. And if it is going to go down, that is how you want it to happen. You get to the end of SmackDown, you tease throughout the show that we're going to have one last huge draft pick before everything shuts to black. And then you hear, on that day, I see clear, and all of a sudden, Edge is back in the wrestling world. The arena is going to go crazy, social media will follow suit, and while you won't sort of get actively live viewers then, a bunch of people are going to go out there and try and watch it retroactively, and if you like Edge enough, you will absolutely tune in to SmackDown the following week, probably just to find out what the hell is going on and how his neck has magically healed itself. Don't forget how synonymous with the blue brand Edge is as well. He was part of the Magnificent Seven, or whatever are they called. And if you also say he's going to be on Raw, then you can start the process there. Then, of course, obviously, you do move him to SmackDown, but that's all right, because think of the matches we can have. You can have Roman Reigns versus Edge. You can have Daniel Bryan versus Edge. You can have Shinsuke Nakamura versus Edge. You can have Ali versus Edge. And yes, straight away you're going, but Miller, what if some of those guys move to Raw? Okay, that means some guys have to go over to SmackDown, so maybe you can get AJ Styles versus Edge. Maybe you can get Seth Rollins versus Edge. Maybe we can get Rey Mysterio versus Edge. A match we haven't seen around about, 15 years? Probably longer. Hell, put him against The Fiend for all I care, because he is a main event guy that can raise the bar of quality. I understand he's not a long-term solution. I think he's in his mid-40s, but as a dude you use infrequently, he will be a huge asset to any wrestling brand. Hence why, if the rumors are true, AEW did the right thing trying to get him in. There is one last thing we have to address too, and that is, of course, Saudi Arabia. I know there's a dark cloud over it, and it makes us all sad, and it makes us all want to take our hands and just rub it into our faces like, what's going on? And hopefully we'll rub off our skin, so on and so forth. I know that we all do it. But I can kind of understand it at the same time from a wrestler's perspective. I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong, but when I hear these stories that Goldberg or Shawn Michaels got paid millions of dollars to come out of retirement to have a match, I shrug my shoulders and go, well, I get it from that point of view, even though on a personal or moral level, it's completely out of my wheelhouse. So maybe all of this isn't actually to have one last run or to do countless matches. It's simply to come back for Saudi Arabia. Edge will probably walk away with like $3.5 million or something like that, and it will just be another huge star being put on a Saudi Arabia show. We'll talk about it, as long as it's not as, well, controversial as The Undertaker versus Bill Goldberg, then maybe we can just move on to whenever the next Saudi Arabia event is, and then we'll forget about it. Because that's what we did with HBK. The Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels actually had another professional wrestling bout, but because it was that tag team match that didn't really tick many boxes, here we are in October 2019, and you never hear anybody say a word about it. Now, from what I can tell, I would imagine that Edge would probably do something a little bit more wonderful or wondrous or like, oh, amazing, I can't believe it, but I don't know. But again, money talks, unfortunately. That's why the whole Saudi Arabia thing starts to begin with, because money talks. Maybe it's a big crown jewel thing. Also, why do they keep calling it just crown jewel? This is like crown jewel number 3 or crown jewel number 4? Baffling. Once more, we don't know what the deal is, but if you do hear the sounds of Alter Bridge on Friday or Monday, don't say that Simon didn't tell you so, because I just told you so. And on the subject of Alter Bridge, because we don't get to talk about this very much, doesn't Miles Kennedy have like a wonderful voice? Don't you think maybe in some ways he has one of the best voices in rock history? Because I do. I think Alter Bridge are a rocking good brand. Yes, I just call them Alter Bridge. It's been a very long day, but hey, it's my video. If I want to call them Alter Bridge, that's what I'll do. Edge's theme, Metalingus, performed by Alter Bridge. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you think about this. 1, do you think that Edge is going to come back? 2, do you want to see Edge back? And 3, do you want another live sex celebration? The answer to number 3 is absolutely not. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling. Head over to WhatCulture.com, read articles, probably about Edge. Follow WhatCulture on Twitter, WhatCulture WWE, so you can keep up to date with Edge news. Watch more videos here. on WhatCulture Wrestling. My name is Simon from WhatCulture. Thank you very much for watching, and more importantly, I just want Edge or Adam Copeland to be happy, and I can completely understand why he would want to come back. Think how hard it must be to not only be the world champion, be on top of the wrestling world, and then be told, not by you, by somebody else, I'm really sorry, man, this thing that you love, your greatest passion, you're not allowed to do it anymore. It's different when you decide to walk away on your own terms. You can deal with that. You know you've made it. But poor Edge, he got kicked out the door long before he should have ever had to. So if we can do this, and all is going to be well, and there's going to be no badness and no negativity, I am all for seeing Edge back on my WWE television screen. I mean, there's just so much potential. I mean, the obvious one is that everyone will be like, can we get Christian back and finally do that Edge versus Christian match at WrestleMania? But I'm going to say now, I am 82.7% sure that's not going to happen. But you always have to leave yourself some room for maneuver. However, we focus on Edge today. We focus on Mr. Copeland. Beth Phoenix, his wife, like I've already said, back in the company, doing commentary on NXT, had a match recently. She teamed up with Natalya. The door is open. You just got to step through it.